I'm very excited to introduce tonight's presenter, Rabbi Mira Rivera. She is the first Filipina American to receive ordination from the Jewish Theological Seminary. She serves at Romemu in New York City, Amud, the Jews of Color Torah Academy, and also the Rabbinic Council of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, JFRIJ. Mira danced for the Martha Graham Dance Company, an ensemble under artistic director Eureka Kikuchi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and taught
Eureka.
dance to New York City public school children with National Dance Institute. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And with that, I'll turn things over to Rabbi Mira.
Thank you, Rabbi Brian. Good evening, everyone. So, just a little bit of housekeeping. I have included my source sheet here on the chat. And so it's called At Midnight, Around Midnight, or Just Midnight. So, we will see through our study here what is this? What happens at midnight? A beloved aspect of our Tikkun Leil Shavuot. So there is in Lamentations there is this one cry that says, "Kumironi Roni Balayla," and it says that at the beginning of the watches, right? There are certain times of the day and the night that have been blocked into what was called a ashmurot, a kind of a grouping of time where there is a watching, a guarding of what is about to happen. So just taking a melody that was, from the band Soul Farm, they say kumironi, like kumi, like rise, arise, cry out in the night. Kumironi, roni balayla, roni balayla lerosh ashmurot. Kumironi, roni balayla, roni balayla lerosh ashmurot. And it says, Shifchi kamayim, pour out your heart like water in the presence of the divine. Shifchi kamayim, kamayim libek, nochach b'nei Hashem. And you pour this out in the presence of the divine. So, how did I start studying about the midnight? Right. So, like a lot of you, during COVID, I had to reinvent myself. I had to figure out how I could feel, like, as it were, like feel my basar bedam, right? So, and at the synagogue where I work at Romemu, at the very beginning of the pandemic, Rabbi David Ingber, our senior rabbi, and our executive director, Jeffrey Kahn, said, "Oh my goodness, without us knowing how the pandemic would unfold for all of us, let us dream of something that we would love to just do," right? All of the ways we can go online, all the ways we can learn. And I'd like to invite you to put on the chat some of those things or activities that you took on at the beginning of the pandemic, and include it in the chat. So for example, like, I'm going to include in the chat the one thing that I started to do for my community is a morning minyan, right? A morning minyan at Romemu. And it was something that we didn't have, right? We just did not have it. And we were a community that met for Shabbat and holidays, and we would come together in very prayerful and very ecstatic and very embodied services, but we didn't have a morning minyan. And so as I started doing the minyan, oh, let's see. Rob learned how to cook chicken curry. Beautiful. Jerry from Jerry NYC learned many jazz tunes. What else have you done? Let's include all the different things that we've done. Tali co-initiated a daily Tehillim group, and it's still ongoing. Hallelujah. So morning minyan is still going also. We haven't broken. We have been meeting every day. If it's not Yom Tov, we're together. Let's see. A Tehillim group of women meet on Zoom daily to recite for those in need of healing. Hallelujah. That is just amazing. And some people baked. What else have we done? A book club. Eve started up as part of a book club. Fantastic. Daf Yomi was begun. Like all of these things, right? We started all of these. Teaching biblical Hebrew and Torah online. We have to find you, Rachmiel, because we're always looking for places to send our friends, our people. So I started morning minyan, and as you know, you do it again and again, day in and day out, and then after a while, you just and a 10-week class on the female prophets. Tali Katz said. So in the Berachot HaShachar, at a certain point, we were looking at a renewal Siddur. And the first blessing was translated this way. Baruch atah Hashem, Eloheinu melech haolam. And we say, Asher natan lesechvi bina le'avchin bein yom uben laila. And we would translate that, according to the Marsha Prager Siddur, for making us conscious beings. And what is it that made us conscious beings? What made that blessing say, enable us to distinguish between day and night? It was, what was this animal that helped us? Our Chachamim, Zichrono Lebracha, that animal that helped them remember what it was, what time it was of the day. It was the rooster, right? It was the rooster. So I went on this journey where I started to look at the blessings going backwards, right? So we would start with the blessings in the morning with Mode'ani, and of course you did your ablutions and all that by yourself. So then I thought, let me go backwards to sleeping through the night, and then through the moment just before you set your head down. Before you sat down to sleep. And this is what happened. I'm going to share my screen with you. I found Berachot 3b and 4a, where there was this moment of midnight in the chamber of King David, of David HaMelekh. And it says, David HaMelekh, and there was a sign that came to King David. And that was the sign about midnight. And so it said that there was a lyre that hung over King David's bed. And once midnight arrived, a northern midnight wind would come and cause the lyre to play on its own. And David would immediately rise from his bed and study Torah until the first rays of dawn. And once dawn arrived, the Chachmei Israel etzlo, all the wise, the sages around him, would say to him, Adonenu HaMelekh, they would say to him, our nation, Amcha Yisrael tzrichin parnasa. He would say, go, our nation needs sustenance, and he would say, go and sustain one another. Right? So that would be what would happen then, as I guess we would say the action. What is the call to action? Is go sustain your people. But between the time when midnight happened and the morning after one's prayers, after one has taken on the determination to do in the world, what happens? So what is that which happens during that time? So they say that, Tachazeh, the David Malka, he said, come and look at this. And he used to wake up, what did they say? Bifalgut Leila. Let me see. And you might say he sat or lay down in his bed while reciting songs and praises. Is it not so? And they say, yes, it is so. So there are many, many praises and so many uplifting of heart that happens, they say, from David HaMelekh. But really, they say at midnight, around this time, there is a flowering of these praises and prayers and longings and yearnings. So some of us have been doing Tehillim. So I'm going to stop the sharing for a moment and just look at my. So I'm going to go. So Carrie and Tali. Right? So, Carrie and Tali, if you would unmute, tell us how your Tehillim practice and gathering, how has that been for you all? Let's see, we need to I'm going to ask you to unmute, if that's possible, with our tech people.
I think me and Tali, we were typing at the same time. And then I didn't realize you were here as well. What was the prompt?
Yeah, just tell us about your experiences with doing your Tehillim group.
So you couldn't, when COVID started, we could not get on the OU call. It was overflowing. And through Ladies Who Learn, which is a Facebook group, a bunch of women from all across the country came together, and there was a notice on there that we were going to start saying Tehillim. And I had women that I had personally never met. I didn't know who they were or anything. So now, except for Shabbat, Tali runs it. As well as Riet, there's a bunch of women that, the play goes in that puts it on. But daily we get together at 10 a.m. and recite Tehillim. And I've traveled now to meet many of them face to face. And it really was something that helped me get through the really darkest moments of COVID this last year, and has made a giant difference in my life. So, and then Tali.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me, what's unique, and it was sort of I'm very gratified it was my idea. And I said, why don't we, with this other woman, form a group? And what gave me the opportunity as a former cantor, and I started to write melodies to the Tehillim, and also interspersed in, for example, which many people know, but Psalm 30, there's a melody. In 27, there's a melody. I has started to compose some nigunim to Psalm 13, and about 7 pasukim to Psalm 119, and which I think it's unique in terms of Tehillim groups. We are also a group of women that meet, and any woman is really, regardless of where she is able to join. And another thing we do for people is being at specific, some Tehillim groups are for Parnasa and other things. We are specifically for healing. So we, and sometimes I'll see in a particular group I'm in, and someone needs the healing, then that name is added to my list. So we accumulate names besides the ones that we have from our own list. And it's been, it's brought not only a connectiveness, but it's become a morning practice. Besides, after I wake up, it's become a ritual of learning, saying Tehillim. And of course, I come to Ramamu, the Hasidic masters, and now foundations. And what I learned many years ago from my Rabbi Noah, but that before you learn Torah, which many people learn Torah from their head, Tehillim opens up the gates. It really opens up the heart that you could come to Torah not from the head, but from the heart.
So I feel, Talian, I just feel like we were meant to meet. We were meant to meet because tonight we're going to explore some of the Tehillim of Psalm 119, right? Psalm 119. Psalm 119. Oh, let me just go.
I've read about 5 nikunim to Psalm 119. So
let's see. Here we go. So these are all the different times, right? The different times that have been mentioned around this Berachot 3b 4a. Imagining our David HaMelekh rising up at that time when the north wind, right, plays this lyre that is above his bed. So these are different times and different ways that he would respond, or somebody would respond to this sound. And Talian, would you like to read this number 4, the fourth box? So this is 119.
Okay.
55.
Zachati b'layla shimcha Adonai ve'esh me'ora Toratecha.
So here you have so it says ve'esh me'ora, and I will guard it. And it's also like the ashmurot, right? The ashmurot, the guarding and the watches, the different times of the day and the night when there was an awareness of shifting of time and space.
So Mira, I just want to say the one that when I think about in terms of your teaching Torah Techa, the Mahavti Torah Techa Kohayom Hisichati, that is one of the songs that I've written, and I don't know if you want to hear it, but I could.
Which verse is this?
This is Mahavti Torah Techa. It's 119. Let me think now. It's I could get my Tehillim. I'm like having a moment. It's so late. I'm blanking right now. It's before. It's could be 97 if I'm not mistaken.
When you get a no pressure, like put it in the chat, right? We'll put it in the chat, and then perhaps later I would love for us to learn it.
Okay.
All right. So we have this response to which comes first? Does the name of God come first, or the night come first? Which comes first? Does the teaching come first? We don't know, right? We don't know. So we are being opened to the possibility of the silence comes first, and then the response comes after. And then here's another one. He says, box number 5. I'd like to invite any of us in the group to either read the English or the Hebrew. So Psalm 119, 147 to 148. Let's see
If you'd like to read, please use the raise hand button, and then I will unmute you.
Oh, thank you. This is your room, this is your house, and I see ahava. So I'm looking for a reader for the fifth box, Psalm 119, verses 147. Yes, please. Yes, you just raise your hand. Go ahead.
I rise before dawn and cry for help. I hope for your word. My eyes greet each watch of the night as I meditate on your promise.
I rise before dawn. So this is what they're saying. Kidamti baneshef. And there's a question. What is neshef? Right? Is it before dawn or is it midnight? Right? So the rabbis like play with this. When is it actually? When is David HaMelekh? When is the prayer saying, I am arising? Is it midnight? Because some said that Neshef is also midnight. Or here we see dawn. But what we know is it's in this time, right? So, but what you and I would actually call midnight, like Chatzi, half, is what Psalm 119, verse 62 is calling Chatzot Laila. So I'd like to invite someone else to read that, either in Hebrew or in English, or. Yes, I can't see your name, but you raised your hand. Go ahead. Hold on. Maybe Rabbi Brian can unmute you. You raised your hand.
Yes, I think it was Claudette said in the chat. Let me find you.
Okay. You
Claudette.
did it. Thank you. You said Psalms 119:62?
Yes, please.
Okay. I arise at midnight to praise you. Midnight, I arise to praise you for your just rules.
Right? So two ways of looking at it, right?
Okay.
Thank you. And so one is, I arise, chasot laila akum. Right? To do what? Lehodot lach. And then the other way of reading is, chasot laila, comma, akum lehodot lach. Midnight, I arise to thank you, to praise you.
Okay.
What's the current word used in modern Hebrew for a midnight? I don't remember that word.
So we're looking at midnight as like chatzi. Chatzi means like half.
I understood that. But what would the current word be used in modern Hebrew?
I just use chatzot. So if there's anyone else here who knows what is even more current and what's au courant and on the street, come and share. Anyone amongst our group here?
We lost the text.
We did lose the text because I removed it because I wanted to see you for a moment. Because we're looking at midnight. So half of the night, they're saying, is the chatzi of it.
Right.
Right? So that's why it's being called chatzot laila. So now we're going to go back to the text. And I want you to look at it. And look at the two ways we can read it. Here we go. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Voila. Here it says, so the English says, I arise at midnight to praise you. That's pretty straightforward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it said, Chatzot Laila, midnight, half of the night. Akum, I get up. Lehodot lach, to give thanks to you, to praise you.
Oh, what a difference.
What a difference.
Yeah.
Is God, is the divine, the Holy One, blessed be, are we calling the Holy One, blessed be, as midnight? So that's like that. Here's a little dilemma we have here, right? Mm-hmm. And let us see what Zohar might say to us. Is midnight a total encounter, a moment for as close encounter with the divine as possible? Right? So in the Zohar, we see here now almost like a pastoral experience. And let's see. If you were born between January and June, please come forward to read. Anyone in this crowd born between January and June? To raise your hand and then mute and have Rabbi Brian unmute you.
Hey, I can read.
Who's this?
Nan Owens. I was born in April.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. At midnight, when birds awaken, the north side arouses with a wind. A scepter of the south side stands in its place and strikes that wind. It is then calm and fragrant.
So now here we have an experience, thank you, of midnight. What they're calling Falgut Leila now.
Right.
Where you have the sound of other creatures and other sounds joining that wind that strikes the lyre of King David and brings it to life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. In your experience, I remember, say, walking outside at night, where, in a pastoral setting, and there are certain blossoms that bloom only, certain flowers that bloom only at night, right, in certain parts of the world. And that experience is like very, very engraved in my mind. Do you hear sounds of animals at night?
Yes.
In the Zohar, they hear birds. Are there birds at night? I see Paul nodding. What other creatures do we have? You can add it on the chat. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you feel? And this is what the Zohar is inviting us to: a tactile, oral, an embodied experience. Talian says, alligators at certain times. What sounds do they make?
What's it's
Really?
yeah, and the frogs have their own sound. Yeah.
So the Zohar is actually mirroring our lives. So birds, raccoons, owls, coyotes. And what do we feel at midnight? at night. And I'm remembering just, pre-COVID on Shavuot, where we would walk up and down, okay, it's Broadway, we would walk up and down Broadway or up and down West End Avenue in New York City or up and down Amsterdam Avenue, where the traffic is less and there's just a different feel of the night. We go from one synagogue to another synagogue to experience their Tikkun Leil Shavuot tranquility. Paul hears birds long before dawn in concert with each other, and this is what the Zohar is picking up. So if God was midnight, if the Holy One, blessed be, is midnight, and let's look at the text that asks this question. So in the Zohar it says, if somebody could read this for me.
Claudette, I'm going
to go ahead,
ask you to unmute.
Go ahead, please. Who's that? Go ahead. So we are now looking at source number 8.
Claudette, you volunteered to read a couple times. I'm trying to have you unmute.
I'm trying to do that. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm reading the Zohar 1. Is that 192b?
Yes,
that's what I'm reading. Okay, so what did David see that he said, midnight, and not at midnight? It is possible that God is called midnight. Yes.
Yeah, it says in.
Yes.
yes, in Zoharic Aramaic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So what we do then when we go into the study experiences for Shavuot is we're having an encounter, right? We're coming close to that encounter. Maika Chama David Beihu Amar Chatzot Laila. V'lo b'chatzot Laila, right? Like just Chatzot Laila without the qualifier at midnight, right? Ba means like
in,
exactly. Not only in a particular midnight, that's in that midnight, one particular night. So this is sort. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. It's as if what we just the new book of in the Torah that we have entered. We say is Bamidbar. It really is not Bamidbar. It's Bemidbar. It is unspecified wilderness. So here we have an unspecified midnight. So is this possible that we could have this mystic experience every midnight? Or is it a particular midnight? Or is it just really, you get to that time, a certain time of the night, a certain time of our life, where you have this encounter, and it's not necessarily any particular, 12:01 or 12:00, but it is that time. Definitely between when you set your head down to the time you wake up in the morning. Right, so let's look at a story in the Zohar. If I'm awake, I feel newly aware. And I know, just noting that a lot of people, like during COVID, we don't even know what is day, or there was a period of time when we didn't even know it was day or night. Do you remember that?
Right.
We were sleeping, we were waking up. What time was it? I don't really know. right? We looked at our clocks, we looked at our iPhones. That's the only thing that would indicate what time or day, time of night or day it was. And Paulette has contributed that sounds seem louder and they seem to travel longer distances at those times. Right? So let's look at a story within the Zohar. And I'm going to invite one of you to, okay, let's do this. There we go. There's a lot of traveling stories in the Zohar. Okay, so raise your hands or use the raised hand function, and we'll look for you.
Okay.
Rabbi Abba was traveling from Tiberias to the castle of his father-in-law, and Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Rav, was with him. They came upon the village of Tarsha. When they wanted to go to sleep, Rabbi Abba asked, "Is there a rooster here?" The master of the house said, "Why?" He replied, "I want to get up at midnight." He said to him, "I do not need one, for I have a signal in the house. This scale in front of the bed. I fill it with water and it drips, one drip at a time. At midnight exactly, all the water empties out. This cogwheel spins and clangs, and its sound is heard throughout the house. Then it is exactly midnight. I had an old man who used to rise at midnight to engage in Torah, and for this reason he made this." Rabbi Abba said, "Blessed is the compassionate one who brought me here."
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you. Brecha Chamana, right? It says Brecha Chamana, blessed be the compassionate one. So here we have an animal, we have a rooster, right?
Right.
Okay, we've lived in such industrialized spaces. Does anybody have an experience of having grown up with roosters and farm animals around them? No?
Clara. Clara has.
Yes? Clara, tell us about it.
Yeah, am I unmuted? Yeah,
Go ahead.
it can definitely crow at unexpected times. It definitely can crow in the dark, before dawn. They're unpredictable. I wouldn't say the middle of the night, like midnight, I've never heard it, but definitely really early in the morning.
I'd say maybe about like 3 o'clock, 3, 4, right? 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, what do they see? Do they see what they call alot hashachar? But the rabbis say that the sky starts to turn a leek green, like my background. You know, that kind of ombre kind of change. But I don't even know. All we know, right, is one starts and then another one follows. Right? If one starts, it's like dogs. I'm thinking of places like where I've been, like in Ecuador and Peru, where everybody's got a dog. So a dog barks, and then the next one is awakened, and they just go one after the other. And as the minutes are rolling, I just wanted to invite Tali Ann again. I mean, if no pressure, if you're up to it, we could learn your nigun if you include it in the chat.
Okay. I'm trying to, okay, I'm unmuted. And it is, as I said, 97. In the chat, of course, I don't have the nukudot, but it's there. It's Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. And my translation is, how much have I loved your Torah? All the day it is my meditation. And it goes like this. Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. That's the A part. So I'll try it again. Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. And the second part is Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati. 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 Mahavti Toratecha Kol Hayom Hisichati.
Beautiful.
What love? Ma'ahavti, right? Like how I so love your Torah. And we say sometimes rabbis read ma as 100, right? Mea. So in 100 ways, I love your Torah. So even looking at some of the different pieces of text that we've seen, like we started with a prayer, right? We started with this prayer, and I took you with me on my own journey, doing morning minyan, day after day, beginning with the early morning blessing, Le'avchin bein yom ubein laila, you who gives us the power to distinguish between day and night, took me to the rooster, took me to the blessings before I put my head down and I set my head down at night. And it took me to the midnight when the north wind would blow in Berachot. And it took me to, it was like this wind that was like traveling, right? Wind that was blowing me and carrying me from place to place through the different times, the times that King David experienced, or whoever is, whoever wrote these verses of Tehillim, different times of the day, the night, of waking up, of rising, of arising, and different kinds of cries. And then we traveled to the Zohar. And we literally traveled through a traveling story. So given that nigun is perfectly lodged in Psalm 119, right? These different explorations of times during the night and day, not from night to dawn, that one would arise. I'd like to invite you to put in the chat or even to raise your hand and share different feelings that you might have now about midnight. Having traveled through these different ways of looking at the night, right? And the deepest part of the night.
For me, midnight is the time of peace and the time of openness and the time of revelation.
Peace, openness, revelation. And I see Claudette. Claudette, we've met before. I'm so thrilled to be reunited with you. I can't hear you, Claudette. I still can't hear you. So
Yeah.
If Rabbi Brian could unmute Claudette, we are about 40 people or 37 people. I know it's hard to find each other. So I'm just going to ask Rabbi Brian. Okay. All right. So Jerry says that for him, midnight is a bridge.
Yes. I think now it will work. Okay. So wonderful. Yes, I prayed at Ramamu for a long time. That's where you met me, Rabbi David. He knows me very well. But Asumaya, everyone. So I want to read something about midnight. And it really is one of the first blessing in the morning blessing. And it's the Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech Aholam. Anoten lehi v'vina lehabim, bien yom uvien lahila. And it says, blessed are you, God, the King of the world, who gives the rooster the understanding to distinguish between day and night. And so I always focus on that in terms of the igniting the intelligence, the place of intelligence, and that this is the way we start our morning blessing. After we do our washing or tikkun, we start the morning blessing talking about connecting intelligence and that divine intelligence with the rooster. And so it is on this night of Shavuot, as you're bringing this about the rooster, and the intelligence is just awakening that blessing in us, especially in this time of world with the COVID and everything that's happening, that we're calling on that divine intelligence to be manifested in each and every one of us to solve these amazing challenges that we are all empowered. We're going to find a way and we're going to make it happen. So blessings. That's a Shavuot blessing from me. Thank you.
Can you hear that song, Claudette? Can you hear
Amen, amen, amen. Yeah.
anyone else, friends? So how is midnight sitting with you now? It's little pieces of Torah, like we just chelek, just little door ajar at midnight. Your house to share. Okay, so I'm reading. Paulette, would you like to read what you contributed?
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I wrote, I enjoy midnight. It is a time of quiet when there are fewer distracting sounds than during the day. It is easier for me to think clearly and to focus at that time. I am free from phone calls and from others wanting something from me. But I'm a night person, so it works for me. Others wouldn't feel that way, perhaps, about midnight.
True. Anyone else?
I particularly like midnight. I'm usually up at that time or just about getting ready to go to sleep, so it's prayer time for me. So it's really saying my night prayer and really just really inviting that my spirit, as my spirit is going to leave my body, make its journey, that I am pray. I give the praise that I'm protected, and I'm always asking for Adon Olam that my spirit will return safely to me. So I in the morning Adon Olam. So we'll just end with that.
But isn't that so true, right? For
Mm-hmm.
us here, we just to say, to raise that we are alive and we are not just surviving, we are thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, we just have to be really grateful at this midnight, right? During this time to just say, thank goodness. And on that note, I think let us enjoy these words from the Nigun, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we'll learn it piece by piece. So Tali, take us in.
Excuse me?
Tali,
Yeah?
we will end our session with the words of Psalm 119, verse 97.
Mahavti Toratecha Kol hayom hi sichati 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 La 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 Mahavti Toratecha Kol hayom hi sichati Mahavti Toratecha Kol hayom hi sichati.
May it be so. Can you hear that song? Thank you so much, friends. Thank you, Tali Ann and Carrie and Claudette and Clara, Rabbi Brian, all of us, Paul, everyone else, Jerry, who contributed and who stayed with us, and Ahava, love to you and to Emmet, and see you at another midnight.
Great. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Rabbi Mira.